Hey guys, welcome back to a little Errorgrid chat. Today with me is Alex, aka EXAN, who has a new release with us called Centic Primer, an LP with 16 tracks of mind-blowing composition. Alex, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Very good. I'm really happy to be here and really excited to be getting this release out and finally sharing it with the world.
Yeah, it's we've seen a long time coming. That was a hard one, right? 16 tracks. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the longest release we have in our catalog so far, but it's also a physical release available as a CD, so which is super exciting, but more on that later on.
I started it in 2018, I think. So I think the first sketches were written December 2018. So it's pretty much three years since I first wrote the first loop of the first piece.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been a long time in the making. And I obviously sent the demo into you quite a while ago as well. It was probably a year ago that I sent the demo to you, I think.
I recall all the notes that you made that accompanied the demo. Here's a guy who doesn't just send tracks. He sends a half page, basically apologizing that the tracks are not finished, not polished, not, that so much more is going to happen. And I was already like, this sounds like so far out and so perfect already. Of course, I didn't want to tell you because I don't want to, boast anyone's ego. I really admire the level of technical expertise that you bring into your tracks, but also vision. I feel like there's something that drives your tracks, that drives your intensity in music composition, that is just, to me, addicting. And I've been listening to that release now, a couple dozen times, and I keep discovering things like in the cracks, in the fabric of the sound. There are tiny things that live, things that evolve, almost biological.
Well, I'm really, really happy to hear you say that, because that was the defining goal that I wanted to achieve with this. It's something that has always fascinated me about music is that we have this frequency space that we can fill up with information, and I've always been fascinated where I'm, because frequencies mask each other out, but depending on levels and so on. And so you have this way to play with things where elements can be there, but they sort of disappear into the background to some extent, or they lose the focus of your attention because something else comes and takes over that attention. And it's something that I love playing with trying to build a full featured, organic, fully filled spectrum, and that's something that I spent quite a lot of time on. I think, not just creating this synth line that I really like, but also to kind of give it the background support that I felt it required to put it in a space, to have elements that would always surprise you and give you extra interest, that if you decided to focus on something else, you would find that there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on in behind that main synth line or that main kind of drum beat or whichever.
There's a certain fascination that you have for jazz, right? So and I think there are like striking resemblances between what you do in certain forms of jazz that I know. Although that's in the eye and the ear of the beholder, maybe you can fill us in on like kind of how that influence finds its way into your music.
Well, yeah. So I've long been fascinated by free jazz, by this kind of free nature of expression, but it's within its own structure. That there is. It's called free jazz, and people think of it as a cacophony of noise, but when you actually focus on it, there is elements that you can follow throughout, and so like my first introduction to the kind of freer jazz type stuff was probably Bitches Brew, I guess, was the first thing that kind of made me go, oh my God, this is this is like this is a whole other world, you know. And then I discovered Ornette Coleman and other performers as well. But the thing that grabbed me about it was these moments where when you're listening, that, and I think we've talked about this before, but where you lose the sense of self. You know, you forget that you lose the ego, you know, it goes. You are in the music, you are in that moment. And, you know, I don't want to try and claim that I'm able to do that yet, but hopefully that's that part of the goal, is to try and get to that point where somebody listens to something and it becomes so sort of all encompassing that you forget everything else and you are just in the music.
So this is kind of also like the premise of, you know, what I hope Errorgrid can offer its audience through music, is not just sound waves, organized sound waves, and, you know, and closed off releases, but experience. Because I firmly believe, and this is why I resonated with your music immediately, I had that. The very moment you sent me your demo, I had that. I had an experience. An experience that creates a memory, and that, you know, once the experience is over, you still take it with you. It's like information that just stays with you. Versus, you know, something that is just like a momentary distraction, right? A reorganization of air around you. It's really, to me, it is an experience, and I'm so glad to hear that the man behind it is actually driven by the intention of creating that experience. But without further ado, let's listen to a short excerpt of Rostand from Centic Primer. You're a guy who knows that mixing is part of the creative process, very much so, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
You have a strong emphasis on mixing and mastering as well. So it's not just like, oh, the competition is the only part that matters and the rest is just polishing. You're like,
no, it's a huge part of the production of the album was the mix down phase. And, you know, this is why I was so delighted when you know, listening back to those original demos, you know, I think the mixes have come and, you know, brought it to where it should have been. And I'm really happy that you know, heard those mixes in their raw state and saw the potential of it. And that means a lot.
You chose to not just, you know, go the path that we have been going with the past 23 releases, which was purely digital. You finally broke open that door. You broke the seal to reach into the physical universe. So Centic Primer is also available as a CD, as a compact disc, 16 beautiful tracks, beautiful artwork. And I think that is very important, that you, as someone who attaches the experience of the music to the composition, also creates an added experience by handing a physical object.
I'm thrilled to do it. It feels like it comes from my own sort of sense of a slight sort of disconnect from music kind of a few years ago, and I wanted to get back into that physical, here's my music, I'm going to go and listen to it now, you know. And you know, it's purely a trick of the mind sort of thing, but there is something that kind of helps me reconnect, I think, to the listening experience. Right. And I am now listening to music because I put it on, or I have to get up and change the side, or whichever, that it draws me into that moment.
The big stopper for physical releases right now are just like supply chain and timing issues.
Yes, yeah.
That's a nightmare. Centic Primer, Available on Errorgrid, Bandcamp as a digital download and stream, and as a CD. Thank you so much, Alex, for your hard work, for your artistry, for being a part of us, for pushing it through, for insisting.
And thank you for having me. It's really a real pleasure to be involved.